My journey with grief started a long, long time ago, at birth really, or even in the womb, because my birth mother didn't know if she was going to be able to keep me, and my birth father left before I had a chance to meet him. I was then adopted and had quite a challenging, although I can't remember it, first year of my life, going between foster homes and birth mother, adoptive parents, back and forth. So although I didn't really have a word for it and I didn't necessarily realize I was grieving, that affected me, as we now understand that even what happens in the womb affects us, and the first year or so of our life really sets the scene for our nervous system, our relating patterns, our attachment styles. So I found romantic relating very challenging. I became enmeshed with my partners, starting with my first boyfriend when I was 18, and really just molded myself to be the person that he needed me to be. I didn't have a strong sense of self, but I had a very strong sense of what the people around me needed and would adapt to fit their needs. I can recognize now that much of my childhood I was in hypervigilance. I was, my spidey senses were up, were looking around for danger, were wondering who was safe and if I belonged, and I did not have a voice and I did not have confidence. So I was very, very shy, and I was waiting to be picked, to be chosen, to be picked in the playground, to be chosen rather than to seek out relationships. And then if I was chosen, I would devote entirely to them and completely lose myself and become in codependency and completely self-abandoning. So I did not realize that I was grieving the loss of my biological birth parents, and that had affected me. And it wasn't until much later in life that I actually started to honor what I had been through and to go through a grieving process with it. And then when my adoptive father, who I always considered to be my father, same with my adoptive mother, she's my mother because they're the ones that raised me. When my father died 3.5 years ago, that was the most deep and profound bereavement that I've ever experienced. Although I have been in contact with death many times throughout my life. My uncle took his own life, my grandparents died, family, friends, and friends of my mom. And it wasn't the first death I had encountered, but it was the first time I was present and witnessed a passing over, which I'm so grateful for. I'm so grateful that I was able to be there. And what I realized when my father passed was that it was obviously extremely devastating. He was, the most important man that I've ever had in my life, and a hero to me, and a real earth angel, and such a beautiful person. So it was an incredibly big loss. But because I had been on my own healing journey for about 10 years, walking the shamanic path, the tantric path, the embodied somatic path, I knew how to feel, I knew how to process, I knew how to let myself feel the grief, to move through emotions knowing that they would pass, that they will come in waves, that I could feel them fully. And that allowed me to actually embrace my grief rather than try to bury it and push it away. And in that process, I realized that those tools needed to be shared with other people, because we all go through grief. We will all lose somebody that we love, and whether that's through death or through divorce or a separation, a breakup, or all the other many forms of loss that we go through in our life. We will all experience grief. And I was grateful that he died at a time when I already had some tools in my back pocket. I already knew how to feel emotions, and I knew how to bring my nervous system back into regulation. So these are the tools that Yola and I share on the grief retreat. And we work with the power of nature. I'm sitting right now barefoot with my feet on the earth. That's been a big part of my journey, is to come back to nature, to let nature heal me. And we share the power of community and of both down regulating and the nervous system, and allowing the stored trauma and grief to come out through up-regulating practices. So we share our somatic tools and our rituals that have supported us through our own grief journeys. And it's such a powerful journey. It's so powerful. It's just 5 days, but in those 5 days you will go away with all these tools, all these practices and rituals that we have tried and tested in our own grief journeys to support us, because grief is something that we will all be touched by. We will all have to learn to walk with, and if we don't, that's when we get sick, and it affects our relationships. It can be extremely isolating and lonely. It can make us ill. It affects our physical health as well as our mental health and emotional health. So important, and it's really a life-changing journey. Our next retreat is in just a couple of weeks, and we have a few spaces. So if you feel touched by my story, or this brings up something about your own grief story and you would like to join us, please do.